to approve an ordinance to raise the water rates to $10.37 per 1,000 gallons starting August 1st, 2012, according to the mandate of the resident by referendum on March 20, 2012. Motion.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Comments?
I have a comment. I just wanted to say, I received a few phone calls today regarding this item on the agenda. And we do have some new faces in the audience who were not here last week. So I just wanted to state the reasoning behind it. Because I've already had people come to me before the meeting too. And I just think it's important to realize that over a year ago, air stripping was presented to us as an option. It was presented as the cheaper option. Funding was sought, plans were in the works. It was stopped. Because of in my opinion, and this is just my opinion, because of the political forces behind Lake Michigan water. The fact that people on both sides of the fence about this issue wanted to push Lake Michigan water, wanted it on the referendum, wanted to make sure that the voters had the right to make that choice. And I'm all for the voters having the right to make that choice. So because the voters did, they made the choice. 54% of the people in Sauk Village came out, made their opportunity, voted yes, they wanted the Lake Michigan water. At that point in time, I stated I thought we should raise the water rates. So we can have a realistic picture of exactly the people who voted yes, they will know exactly what they will be paying. When Jim Sarnick, our engineer, came to the table last week, he stated that IEPA, according to the letter that he presented to us, IEPA questioned whether or not we would be able to repay them if they gave us the loan of $20 million, in their opinion, $20 million for Lake Michigan water. We have no data to say, yes, we're going to be able to pay, or no, we're not going to be able to pay. That is why I suggested we raise the water rates for a 90-day period to determine if we're going to be able to pay. If the residents of Sauk Village are able to pay those rates for 90 days, then we know we can continue with Lake Michigan water. As I just stated, I agree. 54% of the people in Sauk Village voted for it. So I agree that because we live in America and democracy rules and the majority rules, that because 54% of the people wanted it, unfortunately 100% of the people have to pay for it. And I don't think that we should wait until we've gone through the time and energy to pay our attorneys, to pay our engineers, to go through even more funding, try to get this thing from IEPA, only to come out, once we've got this loan, we can't pay it back now. As I stated last week, we talked about water shutoffs. We stated there's 33 homes in Sauk Village. I lowballed it and said that there were 300 vacant homes. That left this $20 million on the back of 3,000 homes. I also stated, which the information was provided in our packets, which was from a FOIA request, that 940 residents are at least 1 month behind in their water. Residents that was 1 month to 2 months were over 800. Residents that was 3 months and beyond, I believe was somewhere in either the 30 or the 90 range. I don't have my packet from last week. It was either 30 something or it was 90 something. So I think it's just that we need to really be evident of exactly what's going on. If a third of our residents cannot pay their water now, they will not be able to pay their water when we go to $10. And I think that we as a village board need to realize that. Put the politics aside. It's not about what you ran on. It's not about what you plan on running on in a year. It's about the fact that residents need water. We need to provide clean drinking water to them, and we need to do it in the most cost-efficient way possible. And unfortunately, that's not Lake Michigan water. I'm not saying that we should give up on this dream entirely. But I am saying that we need to be realistic. Because the second we sign on the dotted line and we get those loans, that's ours. That's a debt. We then have to pay it back. If we raise rates now, before we start Residents can't afford it, fine, we can drop it back down because we're out. We have not signed the dotted line yet. And I just ask this board to realize that. Because, like I said before, regardless of politics or anything else, I ask that the residents, the board members, everybody look at the bigger picture. Because if we continue to push on towards Lake Michigan water, people can't pay their bills now. I can't see how they're going to be able to pay them now. And that's just my opinion.
Trustee Burgess.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, board, people of the Sauk Village did on March 20th vote for Lake Michigan water. However, since that time, the board has not received a definite plan that outlines what we're going to do with the revenue projections. Cost projection, a project outline or timeline. No defined source of funding, and most importantly, no written ordinance or outlining restrictions of funds generated from the incremental water rate usage, which means there is no plan put in place once we start collecting this money from the people. There's no projections put in place once we start collecting the money. Right now, we're asking the residents to pay something that we had our engineers to go out and put together a plan for that. But this has been going on for 3 years. I was hoping that we would have a plan in place now that says, okay, irregardless of what happens next year, we have a plan in place that we can follow to whoever may be here, whoever administration it may be, that we follow it, that we're not just working off the cuff. We're asking these people for their hard-earned money. We need to let them know where their hard-earned money is going to and where we're going to start at. And I was hoping that you would have had a plan by now to say, okay, since the water's been approved, here's what we're going to do. We're going to do this, this, and this. Not wait until after the fact, which was in March. And you've had since March to July to come up with a plan. I'm asking now, sir, if there is no plan, if you have nothing, I know that we're talking about bringing in project engineers, and we're talking about bringing in people that's going to supervise and help us through point A, point B, or whatever. But where's the plan? What does the village have that we can give to them, let them know this is what we're going to do? Where are we going to start? What are we going to do with the money that we got coming in? We're just going to let it sit there until such time. So I'm asking, sir, that if there is no plan, that we as a board come up with a plan within the next, at least the next 2 weeks, that we can put in place, that we can give to these people to let them know this is where the money, or this is what we want to see, or what has to be done. There's a lot of things that have to be done if we get either one, airstripping or Lake Michigan water. There's things that have to be done, definitive things that have to be done. And we need to let the people know what we're going to use their money for. And also we need to know how much money we're going to hopefully get so we can have a timetable to say, okay, we'll finish the loop first, we'll do the infrastructure, or whatever the case, we'll get the reservoir. We're going to do something so they can see that things are starting with their money. Not just take the money, put it somewhere. But the referendum was a binding referendum. And yes, we have to. We have to get Lake Michigan water because it's a binding referendum that stated that, yes, it was voted on, that we will secure Lake Michigan water. However, we need a plan. And if there's no plan, sir, then we as a board have to come up with a plan. We owe the people that because we told them once they vote on it, we would have a plan and where we're going to move and how we're going to move forward with this. And without that, I cannot see even collecting $1 right now for anything until we have to give them a plan. And I'm looking at it. Hopefully, if you have one, then fine, we can go with that. You can present that, or you can at least put it out there, because I don't know what it is. But if not, we can start working on one right now, as soon as possible, so we can, because as was just stated, IEPA is not going to wait. They want something done right. They want something in place right now. So that's why I'm hesitant to raise the rates right now and ask people for money, even though we told them it was going to cost this. We said that, and it was stated, not just us, at the water meetings. It was stated that we're going to have to raise the rate if it is passed. Well, it's been passed. So since we put out all this information about the water rates, about the water and the fecal matter and all the contaminants, we now need to put out information about what are we going to do once we get the money and how we're going to start it.
Let me address Trustee Bird. I don't know where this trustee's been sleeping. I know.
Mr. Mayor, first of all, you don't know. Wait, no, just 1 second, sir. I did not leave a slanderous. I did not leave a slanderous. When I addressed you, sir. When I addressed you. When I addressed you, I did not make a slanderous remark. And I appreciate you not doing the same thing. I did not make a slanderous remark, sir. You get that the time. I did not make a slanderous remark, and I appreciate it if you do not do the same thing. I'm just asking you that. I did not say and tell you, I don't know what you've been sleeping in or sleeping on. I did not make a slanderous remark, sir. So I'm just asking you not to do the same, because we can both go there.
To the board since day one of this project.
As of the results of the referendum, we've been proceeding with our action plan to give Lake Michigan water for the board's direction, and we're continuing to do so.
Have you not provided the board with an update?
Every meeting.
The next thing is that go ahead, Justin.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, I just want to bring up a couple things. No, I'm not in favor of the $10 and some odd cents that raise the water rates. I've received several phone calls that mostly from senior citizens, people on fixed incomes and retired. They're asking how do we expect them to, they have a hard time meeting the payment now, how they expect them to meet the $10 payment per thousand. However, I want to point out a couple things. The reason I asked for the clerk to put the way it read on the ballot, it is in there, unfortunately, it is definitely there. It says, which will increase your water rate by an estimate $6.87 per thousand gallons of water used, and will increase your monthly water bill by approximately $73 per month for an average household. Again, there's only 74, I believe it stated 75%, no, 54% people voted yes for it. That's over what we needed to cancel it out. But we're gonna do something. We have to. We're mandated by the residents to do it. But once again, there's several other, which was stated by a letter from Illinois EPA. They made a couple suggestions, and I feel that one of their suggestions, by temporarily going with the air stripping, we might be able to hold off a little bit. However, I do like, and I look back at my notes, briefly, Trustee Williams said that she proposed a trial period. Well, under this motion tonight, there is no trial period part of it. It just point blank says that we'll start August 1st, according to mandated residential referendum on March 20th. Mr. Mayor, I would like to also go with Trustee Williams, and we can do a trial period for 90, 120 days, see how the residents can fill this. I personally don't think they're going to be able to maintain that cost. And we are already in an economy that has took excuse my language, not against anybody, took a big dump on everybody. But we need, as the board up here, we need to come together, as Trustee Williams said, we have to come together and do what's best for our residents here. I have no problem trying for a trial period, but I really think we need to look into it a little more closer. But the figures was there, the facts was there. One of the residents told me that, well, they got turned around, misunderstood when they came to the town hall meeting, and there's so many figures flying around that day that they're lucky if they knew what time of the day it was. And motion to rescind their motion and either table for temporarily or put a 90-day period on it. Thank you, sir.
Yes,
I have a question.
go ahead.
I guess my question would be, is if we as a board make this motion and then water rates go up and have to by agenda, or sorry, by ordinance, we as a board could then rescind that ordinance, correct? Create an ordinance in place like we did with the water, in 2006, when we updated the water, we had to create an ordinance and say that every year it will 5%. Would we, I guess my question is, again, we formulated it right? Would we have to rescind my motion and the second to add the 90-day temporary time, or would we be able to keep this motion and then as a board in 90 days come back and rescind? Do you think it's just cleaner if we just rescind the motion?
You can do it either way. You can rescind it and then just put a specific time frame on the rate increase, and then you wouldn't have to ask after the 90 period, or the board has the ordinance increase, and then they have to act within 90 or 120 days, whatever the time period is.
I guess the only reason why I didn't ask for it to be written with the 90-day period is because if in fact the residents are able to continue to pay at the rate that they're paying now, then I would see no reason why we wouldn't continue on with Lake Michigan Water, continue on that process, because then that would give the village engineer the opportunity to go back to IEPA and say, look, this is proof we can pay. But if we do it this way, which I have no problem rescinding my motion and altering it, but then that will cause us at the end of 90 days, whether or not we've got, compliance or not, you would have to come back to the table. So I'm just asking which, in your opinion, do you think is cleaner?
It can be done either way.
Okay.
Both clean, I think it's more of a direction of the board.
If Trustee Myers would prefer, I have no problem. I will wait for the rest of the comments, but if Trustee Myers prefers, I have no problem with rescinding my motion and altering it.
Trustee Haynes says, Trustee Haynes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I also received phone calls throughout the day, throughout this last week, and again, most of them from seniors. Personally, I'm not in favor of this. However, as we all remember, Jesse Jackson Jr. standing in here during the town hall meeting saying that the residents will be watching this board if it passes because it would be a mandate for the residents. I think we have to remember there's some things here though. Number one, the referendum was spelled out. The information, even though some of it was skewed, some of us tried to get the correct information out. There's nothing happening here that the village residents were not informed of prior. If you were lied to, I have news to say that I'm sorry. And I think you need to go after those people who lied to you. And I think we have to remember some other things. Number one, this was a referendum passed by the people. It was a binding referendum, but there was no timeline. Number two, it was a binding, however, the final decision is not by this board if we get Lake Michigan Water. The final decision is by the IEPA and the DNR. I believe it's the DNR. They are the ones that make the final decision. We as a village can only go and approach these organizations and say that we would like Lake Michigan Water. The residents have voted on it. We can provide the information. However, they are the ones that have the final word. I think we have to remember, the residents were warned before voting on it. Number one, there would be a cost increase. It was part of the referendum. Number two, we informed the residents that it could be up to 5 years or more before they got their first drop of water. We were honest with them. Some people were not honest. Some people went out and told residents, they said they turned key, we'll have it right away. Again, it's up to the agencies that provide the information. Now, it's if we get it or not. The other thing is, we informed the residents that there was work that had to be done before we got Lake Michigan Water. We informed the residents that 20% of our infrastructure had to be repaired. We informed the residents that there would be construction that had to be done. We informed the residents that there was going to have to be negotiations between communities. We informed the residents that there was going to have to be probably property rights and things like that would have to be purchased. This is stuff that takes time. Last week we talked about short-term, long-term goals. We looked at the IEPA letter. I believe there was 5 points in that letter. The first point talked about Lake Michigan water and how they felt the village residents could not afford it. Again, something that was brought up and was voiced by many on this board that felt the same thing, that the cost was going to be more than the village residents could afford. But the village residents voted, and it passed by some 70-some votes, if I remember right. Don't quote me on that, but I think it was like 70-some votes. There was also other points in there that said that the village should move forward on. One of those was to go ahead and get an emergency hookup coming in close by Blue Trail and bring it to Sauk Village. That is an emergency hookup they talked about, that if our water does exceed the limits, we would have water up to Sauk Village to provide the residents with safe drinking water. The other recommendation that they made was that we could apply for a low-interest loan, which they felt the residents could afford, and use airstripping. Again, that's a short-term goal. Short-term goal is to continue getting the emergency hookup in case the water exceeds the limits. Short-term goal is going ahead and applying for that loan and getting the airstripping, but there's still a long-term goal. We're mandated by the residents of Sauk Village. That long-term goal is getting Lake Michigan water here. Now, what do we do in the long term? By raising the rates, here's what we have to do. Number one, we start fixing the infrastructure that has to be repaired. What does that do? That means that requires the village to ask for less money from the IEPA over time, because remember, this is going to cost over $20 million. But why? The $20 million includes the infrastructure repairs. If we can get these infrastructure repairs done prior to getting Lake Michigan water, that brings the amount down that we have to apply for. What else has to be done? We know there has to be hearings. There's going to be multiple hearings. Residents are going to be able to come. There are going to be open meetings. People are going to be able to talk. So there has to be hearings. That's the thing. There's litigation that has to be done. We already talked about this property we're going to have to buy. We've already talked about negotiating with communities. So we're going to have to pay for that additional litigation. We've already talked about there's going to be engineering plans that have to be done. That money has to come through the funds that we're raising tonight, that possibly will raise. Now tonight we already passed bringing in a consultant that's not going to cost this village anything. They're willing to give their time to help us move forward on getting this Lake Michigan water. If we were mandated by the residents, we put it up for referendum. Do we agree with it? Maybe everyone on this board agrees with it. I know personally, my pocketbook, I do not agree with it. I have a large family I have to take care of. But you know what? I was voted in to represent the residents and to serve the residents. The residents of Sauk. So, again, one last thing is, there's an emergency hookup. This emergency hookup, when we started the plan, was supposed to cost less than $600,000. Last week we found out it's going to cost over $1 million. Is that correct? It's going to cost over $2 million to get us an emergency hookup coming in from Blue Trail over to Sauk Village. That is, what, 3 times more than what we planned? Again, these raised water rates will help get all these things in motion, so that when we get the final approval will cost us less. Why? Because over the next 4 to 5 years, however long it takes to go through the hearings, get the approval, we are going to be making repairs. We're going to do everything that we say we need to do. I agree with Trustee Burgess. There has to be a plan. And that plan has to state somehow, right now we're collecting $3.90. The water department and Public Works has to continue working with that $3.90 per 1,000 gallons. What happens to the other $6 plus per 1,000 gallons? That has not been spelled out. That's where I agree with Trustee Burgess. Where is that money going to go? And I think the plan that he's calling for, and I agree with him 100%, that plan needs to spell out, and we're looking toward our engineers, we're looking toward our new consultants. We're saying, what are we going to do first? What has to happen first? Does the infrastructure have to happen first? Does the emergency hookup have to use some of these funds for emergency hookup? So, again, residents, I know it's something they not understand, and I know that some may feel the same feelings that I have toward this increase. But please remember, it did pass the referendum, and we are mandated by the people to go ahead and move forward in Lake Michigan water. Are we gonna get it tomorrow? No. The people were told that. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, I do have one more thing, Mr. Mayor. I think we owe the people at least a pass out, a distribution to let them know. We may not be able to let them know what their water bill individually may be, but we also need to let them know, are we raising the sewer rate? The sewer rate going to stay the same because, you know, the water rate or the water usage at the sewer rate is dependent upon that also, number one. And number two, are we going to let them know, you know, as the trustee just stated, as trustee had just stated, what are we going to do first? I know the engineering firm has things that they're dealing with now as far as the emergency hookup. But what we need to let the people know that we're getting ready to raise the rate. This is what the average, I mean, we need to pass that out. We passed out things for less than. This is going to get the people in the pockets right now. We're talking about August 1st that their water is going to go up to $10 or something per 1,000 gallons. We need to let them know approximately how much it would be so they can kind of find out right now. We're talking now to maybe 50 people. We need to let the village know. We need to spend the money with Sauk. Hopefully we can do it with the Sauk. I know it's a last minute item. Maybe that's all we can put on there or something like that. But we need to put it out to each and every resident, you know, that your bill is going up, right? A lot of people may not read the paper. A lot of people may not know when the date is. We're just talking about it right now here at the meeting. Those who didn't get a chance to come to the meeting or hear what's going on needs to find out. So I think it's incumbent upon us to do a mass distribution, let them know that their rates will go up, and this is what we're going to do. And I'm not sure, and that's why I'm asking, are the sewer rates going to stay the same? So that's something we need to find out too. Is that going to stay the same, or is it going to increase also? Okay, well, for me, I do pay. I mean, everyone here pays a water. I just want to know that, but that needs to be spelled out to let them know. So we, you know, and also, as I said before, we need to know what we're going to do with the money. What are we going to do first? I know we're mandated, as I said before, we're mandated to take care of the water now because of the way it is. Are we going to address that issue first, and how much is that going to cost? Just to say we're going to raise it for 90 days, and hopefully that, you know, everyone will pay. But if we're going to bring Lake Michigan water in, this is what it's going to cost. So people were told that. But we need to know what the plan is. We need to have a plan other than just we're working on it. They need to see something in writing. I know if I'm going to buy something, if I'm getting ready to spend X amount of money, I want to see what I'm spending it for. Other than just, okay, we're working on it, we're doing this and that. They want to see something in writing so we can have a master plan in case something happens that it still goes on. This administration is not here next year. It still goes on.
Let's see what
I actually didn't want to talk about the same comment more than twice, so I have a comment on stock house later, but I'm wondering if the village clerk could say who made the motion and who seconded it, because unless there's any more comments, because we still need to have that rescinded and brought back to the table so we can vote to see whether or not this is even.
The motion was made by trustee Williams and seconded by trustee Chavez.
I will rescind my motion in order to amend it.
Always.
Okay, then, I will then make a motion to amend this item to state that, to add the 90 days timeline for the raising of the water rates to $10.37 per 1,000 gallons, starting August 1st for a period of 90 days.
Before I go for a second, I want to make one comment regarding this water bill increase. It's all of a sudden now that the board here on Tuesday night, this didn't even have to be on the agenda. Tuesday night, I brought the same thing to the board. Why are we raising the rates on the citizen we haven't dug a hole yet? Why are we raising $10? We haven't even had a plan. I brought it to the board to let instantly, the board agreed, we'll put it on here, we're gonna raise the rate, we're gonna give them $10, that's what we're gonna do. That's why it's on this agenda. All we have to do is just what we're talking about here. We wouldn't even have to be this far. All we have to do was just do what I said the other night. Agree? Let's look at this. Let's bring a plan. We may not have to raise the whole $10. We don't know until we get a plan together on where we're going to raise the rate. But no, the board collectively wanted to raise it the whole $10. So I am so glad that whoever jumped on each one of these trustees and come get back to the drawing board and come up with a plan before you start raising our rate. That's all they did. It's premature. You just jump on board at one meeting, decide to raise the rate without coming up with a plan. That's what I asked them to do last Tuesday. We would have never had to have this thing here. We would have put together a plan instead of going and trying to vote on it all of a sudden.
Mr. Mayor.
Can I second the motion?
Mr. Mayor, there's some double talk going on here because I just heard you say the village engineer has been providing a plan. He's been updating the village board. Now you're saying we don't have a plan.
Not for the rate of the rate, you know.
Mr. Mayor.
That's what this is about, raising the rate.
What is the plan, Mr. Mayor? I think number one, the referendum passed. A referendum that you pushed strongly for the people to pass. So we're not doing anything that you did not support. We're not doing anything that you didn't go out on the streets and campaign. We're not doing anything. Now, again, we've already talked about the money that the increase is going for is for infrastructure, is for engineering, for litigation, so we can move forward. Again, there's a whole list of them, so we can move forward and get this going. We can continue pushing this off, and nothing's going to happen. So, again, we've got our engineers moving forward with Lake Michigan Water, but we have no increased rates to help pay for them. So where's the money coming from that all the work that they're doing to move forward on Lake Michigan Water? So, Mr. Mayor, again, you're going back to double talking. One minute you want to put down Trustee Burgess and ask him where he's been sleeping, and say that we've got the engineers provide us a plan, and he's constantly giving us an update, and then you sit there and not even 5-10 minutes later, you're saying, we don't have a plan, we need to wait till we have a plan. So, Mr. Mayor, either we have this plan, or we don't have a plan.
Got a question?
Okay. First of all, trustees, you look at two different plans here. We're talking about Lake Michigan Water. Certainly, we have a plan for Lake Michigan Water. But to raise the rate on this ordinance that you're trying to pass here tonight, approve tonight, we do not have a plan to raise our citizen rate for $10 per 100 gallons. No, you don't. And that's why each one of the trustees is backing away from now. Because they know we don't have a plan to raise that rate.
Mr. Mayor, the plan was put together when the village residents passed the resolution. The resolution states right here, shall the village of Sauk Village upgrade its municipal water systems to provide Lake Michigan water and abandon all current wells for an estimated cost of $19,700,000 this year, which will increase your water rates by an estimated of $6.87 per 1,000 gallons of water used, and will increase your monthly water bill by approximately $73 per month for an average household. So, Mr. Mayor, the village residents voted on this, and it passed. It passed by 70-some votes, Mr. Mayor. So all we're doing is, in fact, if you look at the amount we're raising, we're a little bit under what it's supposed to be. I think it's supposed to be $10.77, but tonight we have before us $10.37 per 1,000 gallons.
Let's speak to that.
Hey, Mayor, how much time do we got before IPA puts us in litigation? Okay, we're in already litigation. How much time before they say that, you know what, you guys don't look like you have a plan? I mean, and they're going to start suing us, and we're going to start paying out more money. And who's going to pay that? Where's the plan for that? I mean, you guys are talking about all these plans. The plan is there. You know, Jim set up the plan. We got to pay the money for the plan. I don't see what the problem is. It's either that or we're going to keep continuing the litigation with IEPA, and we'll be paying because we're not compliant. So you guys need to do something. I mean, we got the second on the floor. Let's vote.
Any other comments? Clerk, call the roll.
Nixon. Burgess.
Is this for 90 days?
The motion was amended to stay for 90 days starting August 1st.
Yes.
Evans.
Yes.
Hanks.
Yes.
Myers.
90 days, yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Okay. I'd like the board to know that I'll be vetoed tonight. All right. Will not be raising questions until we come up with a plan other than this.
Mr. Mayor, I just like one more statement. You've been the mayor for 3.5 years. This was your campaign promise 3.5 years ago, and here we are 3.5 years later, and you still don't have a plan. So I just wonder how much longer it's going to take you to get a plan.
We paid for this. We paid for the municipal fire. We can pay for Lake Michigan water.
All right, now motion to move forward with approving the IEPA loan application for the purpose of acquiring air strictly for the village of Sauk.
So move.
Comments?
Why are we getting airstripping if we're moving forward with Lake Michigan?
Now, you know, the last serve.
Hold on now, hold on.
You know what they move?
Hold on here.
Your children. Okay, your children are wrong.
Let's put her out.
No, remove you. We don't trespass.
No.
Move. It's a lot of things here. Move. I'm not your child. I'm just a we don't match.
Is this going to be on the chief's report next week? Or 2 weeks?
We don't need to comment from anybody up here about why the chief is not here. We're not
We're gonna start with
okay? We need to move on.
Let's start tomorrow.
We're going to ask that our citizens stay under control, or I would have to have you removed. Asking everybody to be under control here. Trustee Hanks going to remove you. All right, let's move on. Let's move on. We got a motion on the floor to move forward with approving the IEPA loan application for the purpose of acquiring assets. Got a comment from Trustee Burgess.
My question again is, if we're moving forward, as you just stated, that you had this long dissertation about what we're going to do and what I've been sleeping with, why are we going forward with borrowing money for airstripping, if that's what that is? I mean, if we're going to tell the government that we're going to airstrip and we're going to turn right back around and do Lake Michigan water, I mean, does that make sense? That doesn't make sense to me. But I'm asking the question.
Okay. On last Tuesday, at this same meeting, all trustees combined collectively to have this on the
No, I didn't. No, I did not. Read your minutes. No, I did not.
So
I
that is
questioned
the
it then.
reason why we have
Read your
on the
minutes.
agenda.
Read your minutes. The clerk is right there next to you. I did not ask that same question last week sitting out there. Maybe you didn't recognize me because you don't. But what I'm saying, and I asked the question, why are we accepting money to airstrip if we know that we're going to go to Lake Michigan water? And why are we doing that? Because whatever money we accept, now we accept this money from them, and you already don't want to raise the rates, what are you going to pay it back with?
Let me just say again, I posed the question to our engineers, and the engineer, Mr. Zernick, stated that he didn't see a reason for us going to airstripping when we were moving in the direction of Lake Michigan water.
There you go.
Why is this on the agenda again? The Board of Trustees.
And I still say, you just got to say that you're going to veto the part as far as raising the rates. if the engineer is going forward with trying to set up whatever he has to set up to do the infrastructure, what are we going to pay that back with? Where are we going to get the money to pay that back with? We're going to just tell Abracadabra, just go out there and have the money? We have to have something in place. I don't know about you, but I pay my bills with what I have. I can't pay my credit card with a credit card. I can't do that. So we have to have somebody somewhere so we can pay something that we get ready to move forward with. You just got to say that you have the engineer moving forward with bringing Lake Michigan water. Now, when he comes time for him to say he needs so-and-so and such, and we need to go out there and get secure financing, where are we going to get how are we going to start paying it back? We're going to just run, everybody's going to run up to the village and say, I'm going to pay my bill ahead of time so we can get this money? So that's why I meant by plan. This should have been in force a long time ago, not just now. This should have been in force in March when the people said that they wanted this. You should have had that plan ready then, not July, in March. But now you're trying to be, I don't know what it is, sarcastic or whatever the case may be, but these are these people's money. This is the citizens' money. We can't play with it. We can't wait till the last minute to pay anything. That's what we've been doing for the last 3.5 years, wait till the last minute. I, for one, don't want to do that. We need a plan, and we need something in place ASAP to know that we're going to go out there and pay for what the village engineer and the consultant is going to put before us. We don't go out there and look at a car and don't know how we're going to pay for it. We should know what our limits are before we go out there looking for the car.
Yeah.
Hey.
All right.
Mr. Mayor, this is before the village board tonight, based off the recommendation from the IEPA. Again, number one, the IEPA said they'd be willing to go ahead and hopefully they would have to apply for these funds to help us move forward. Everyone wants to talk about safe drinking water. Safe drinking water. Well, the village residents could have had safe drinking water over 3 years ago. However, just like everything else, Mr. Mayor, you just continue to push this out and delay. So, again, IEPA under point number, I think it's 4 or 5, talked about the low interest loan to move forward and getting airstripping. Again, we talked about this last Tuesday night about a long-term plan and a short-term plan. This is part of the short-term plan to get the airstripping in here, again, to provide safe drinking water for the residents, and at the same time, make the infrastructure repairs that we have to make, because we know that Lake Michigan water is approximately 5+ years out. That we've been told by the experts. Now, the mayor talks about how the engineers are bringing Lake Michigan water to Sauk Village. He continues to forget to mention it's emergency hookup for Lake Michigan water coming from Blue Trail. That's what the engineers are working on. So in case our water limits exceed the limits, that we can have, again, safe drinking water. So the airstripping is providing safe drinking water for the residents for the next 4 to 5 years, while we continue to move forward on getting Lake Michigan water here. I don't think anyone on this board has said that we're still not planning on bringing Lake Michigan water. But the goal is safe drinking water. And to put this down, number one, you're putting down the IEPA put in writing for the residents. And at the same time, you're double talking again, because the whole entire time for Lake Michigan water, you talked about safe drinking water. Safe drinking water, that's all we heard from you. Well, the residents have an opportunity to have safe drinking water through a airstripping, which we can get a low interest loan through the IEPA, which provides safe drinking water, and we can continue moving forward and getting Lake Michigan water. And hopefully by the time that we get everything approved, we'll have to request less money than we have to request today from the IEPA. And I think we can look at our consultants, and we can look to our engineers, and they're probably going to say the same thing.
All right.
Hold up.
Mr. Attorney, what kind of litigation can we get into if we do the emergency hookup, still don't have a plan to improve the water, and now we're starting to survive off just the emergency hookup? I mean, what kind of litigation or what kind of trouble can we fall into if that happens? Because it almost sounds like the plan is get the emergency hookup, and work out a deal with the neighboring town that we got the emergency hookup and just provide Lake Michigan water in that way. That's what it sounds like the plan is, but to me, I think I'm the only one that sees that. Because there's an emergency hookup that's going to happen, but no other action is going to take place after that. Because there's nobody want to move forward on a plan.
All I'm going to say is you guys have been involved litigation with EPA for going on 3 years now. Just received this letter dated June 22nd, which talks about your project plan and what they believe is feasible and not feasible. There's been talk about accepting funding. I don't know what funding you guys are talking about accepting. I don't think there's any coincidence that you received this letter and that there's serious test results that just came out, and there's a conference call next Tuesday. So as far as what's going to happen, this litigation's been ongoing. They can fine you up to $1,000 each day the last 3 years for not being in compliance. They can take significant measures against the village. I don't think it's any big secret what's going on or what's going on in Crestwood. And the Attorney General's office is not going to let that happen somewhere else. They're coming down hard, and for this to be going on for 3 years, talking about this plan and that plan, they just want to see a plan, but you might want to have copper for your gutters, perfect streets, but you got to be able to pay for it. So, they're looking for ways to pay it. And in their letter, they've provided, they have ratios, just like if you go for a home mortgage or a loan, what they see is viable and what's not viable. They don't see the water rate increase as being a viable alternative. If there's other funding mechanisms out there, that's going to have to be brought forward to them on Tuesday. I'm telling you. And based on the recent testing, you guys are facing serious consequences.
Thank you, Mr.
Let's see what you
Ms.
I think that we need to focus on a couple different things on that. Number one, I heard residents say that airstripping wasn't safe. As I stated last week, the airstripping came, as Trustee Hank said today, the airstripping idea came about, be on this agenda, from a letter from the IEPA. We've talked about the IEPA today and litigation that we're in with them and them wanting a plan. I don't know how anybody else runs their lives, but if somebody who is in an authoritative situation like the IEPA towards us, they basically have us in a situation where they could initiate finding us. If they tell us to do something, it's my opinion that we should do it. If they're the ones telling us, you need to have immediate action, this is what we suggest for you to do based on your socioeconomic climate in your town, based on the numbers that we've read, we strongly suggest you reconsider this option. That's what the letter said. So if they're telling us to do it, we're going to say no. We know better than the IEPA. The residents are saying it's not safe. Is it environmentally damaging? Because I can't see that the Illinois Environmental Protection Agency would suggest that we do something that damages the environment. That's counterproductive. I'm not sure why anybody. I think it's important that we need to, again, I'm asking that people on this board look outside the box. Look at the bigger picture. If IEPA is telling you to do something, you do it. Especially since we've been talking about this since May of 2009, and the village attorney just said they could find $1,000 a day. Anybody want to take a crack at how much that is? I mean, that's over 3 years. We all know there's 365 days a year, and we had a leap year in there. And just add the numbers together, people. We've got how much money in the back of unpaid bills? That's okay, you don't have to answer because I don't really want to know. We go over it all the time. I hate hearing the number over and over again. So we're going to
just read one thing here, and there are several comments, including one from our attorney. It says in item number 4. And by the way, Ms. Houston, this letter is from the Roger Obert, Project Manager, Infrastructure, Finance Assistant, Section Bureau of Water, Illinois EPA. So it's that's real. You need a copy. They're playing in the background. All right. It says, for all you people out there, the treatment alternative at the cost of approximately $5 million is within the long program affordable guidelines and would be greatly sufficient, less burden to the village of Sauk Village. It doesn't say that we're going to give up the Lake Michigan Water Project completely. No, it says we have to do something other immediately. The village attorney just got to saying that. They are going to have a conference call that states that we're going to have to get off our rear end and do something immediately. And to do the total project, the $20 million project, it's going to take us about, what, Jim, 3 years? I think you said anywhere between 2 to 3 years to get us through. I don't think we have 3 years before they start coming and pounding our door. So, and that's it. Ms. Houston, would just listen for a couple of minutes without commenting, please. If we get something going now, right now, we might be able to get in there and get something and then continue on getting Chicago water in there. I know everything is in line coming off of Chicago Heights. And we just don't have the $20 million, and we need now, I find out we need, by order of the Illinois EPA, we need to do something other now. So let's do something other now, and then as soon as it's done and we get water that the EPA accept, then we can start back working on the real project. That's all we're trying to point out to you people. That's all it's going to take.
Yes.
Before I call for a vote, Mr. Grant, I'd just like to ask you one comment on the air-stripping part of it. Only the air-stripping part. What are your position of the engineer in charge of the project? What do you say?
In regard to what?
And do we need to go to air-stripping now? Or do we need to go to air-stripping at all so far right now?
Let me just clarify. I know this term's been thrown around a lot. The emergency Lake Michigan connection. What it was before versus what it is now. Before, as I proposed it in the report, it was a connection with South Chicago Heights around Bloom Trail High School. That was just to supplement the village's water supply should one of their wells go down. That was, at the time, estimated $400,000. The vinyl chloride concentration keeps going up in the wells. So therefore, a couple meetings back, more than that, it was decided, okay, let's go a different approach. Let's get Lake Michigan water that can supply the entire village with water as soon as we possibly can. And that is what we're designing right now. That 16-inch water main down Sauk Trail. That will provide all the water that the village needs. So that's what you're getting for your $2 million. So if everything goes according to plan, and we can turn that on by fall next year, that is going to be your quickest way to getting safe water in sufficient quantity. So, to your question, Mr. Mayor, putting air stripping in, that will, in fact, be redundant. Now, let me clarify that. The way to get a permanent Lake Michigan water supply is to build a pump station and reservoirs. Those are expensive. Can't remember offhand, something around $4 million. So that would also have to be included down the line to get that permanent connection established. And the IDNR will require that. So it's a two-step project. We're bringing in the water main. That's phase one. Phase two is putting that pump station in and reservoirs. So we can go with the air stripping, and that will also get you the water that you need in sufficient supply. And then at that point, it's kind of your decision whether you want to stop taking Lake Michigan water and go back to your wells. Does that answer your question, Mr. Mayor?
Well, I guess what I'm asking, with the contamination level rising, before we can go to, okay, before we can get emergency water, is it necessary to outstrip the well now? To start looking for outstripping before we even get emergency water? Or what happened to the well? We put this money into outstrip. Then once we continue to go to Lake Michigan water, is this money that we just, I think I was asking Mr. Duncan.
Are you asking about the IPA low interest loan funding?
Well, I'm trying to find out, do we have to go to outstrip account? That's what I guess is what I'm looking for. We got outstrip in here. We talked about using the taxpayer money to do outstripping. Is it necessary?
In my opinion, with the emergency Lake Michigan water connection, no. Because we will get water in sufficient supply that is obviously vinyl chloride free. So therefore, I don't see the need at this time to move forward with the air stripping. I think you go with one or you go with the other.
Time limit wise, air stripping, how soon will we have to see that project using an air stripping as opposed to continue with the emergency water with Lake Michigan water?
We're ahead of the game in terms of the emergency connection. We've already started the design process. That will certainly be, assuming we follow the timeline, that will be in place before airstripping would be constructed, and we'd be able to utilize that to secure the safe water.
Mr. Mayor.
Hold on. Trustee Reginald.
Yes, I do have a question. Jim, we talked about a few minutes ago as far as having this conference call come Tuesday. And we've already stated that the vinyl chloride contaminant is continuing to rise. If our EPA says, okay, all bets are off, we need you to do something now. It's at a point now where either you do something, we take over. And you know what happens when they take over, we have no choice. What would be, could you explain, I know already, but could you explain what would be the process for us to do something right now? What would we have to do right now within the next 90 days? If they give us 60 days or 90 days, could you explain to everyone what would be the process that we would have to do with our wells? If they came in and told us that our contaminants are too high and right now we have to do something, what would be our alternative?
Sorry, Trustee, I don't understand. If we have to do something with our well,
Right, if they came, if our EPA said, okay, your wells are too high, you reached that point, you have to do something now, your water is at a point now that it has to be boiled or whatever. The contaminants have reached the level that we've already set, and we need you to do something right now. What is it that we can do within 90 days to the wells to appease them until we go to whatever?
there's nothing that can be turned around that quickly. If it came down to that, then it would be a matter of shutting down the wells.
So there's nothing that we can do. We could not get a portable air stripper on the wells at that point.
We looked into that, and we talked about this. And basically, companies have to build these units. They don't have units sitting on shelves. So if we ordered it today, it would probably take 8 to 12 weeks to get a unit to the site. Then we have to build a concrete pad and put it on. Then we have to build the piping that would connect up to the wells. It's a multi-month process.
So that's why the reason I wanted you to explain, because that's why I talked about air stripping. I mean, if we're going to wait this length of time, we might as well get the Lake Michigan, which brings back my original thought. we have to start planning for that. And planning for that means we have to get the funding for that. We haven't even gotten the funding from anyone to go out and even secure funding. So that's something that, that was one of my reasons why we have to start now. But I just wanted you to explain that because that may be, I don't know what this conference call is going to say, I don't know what they're going to do, but they're calling us for a reason. I just wanted to find out. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, Jim, I have some questions for you. Again, we've talked about getting this emergency hookup, which is going to cost approximately $2 million. Where's that funding coming from?
I'm not the person to be asking.
Well, you're doing all the work for it. You're talking like we have $2 million in the bank to do this, okay? The other question I have is the airstripping would be using our water, currently we have, which would allow safe drinking water. How much is it going to cost us to do this emergency hookup on top of putting in all the infrastructure, getting Lake Michigan water here?
Well, the $2 million project that we're doing to install that water main, that will be part of what we would need anyway for the Lake Michigan water infrastructure. So that $19.7 million that was originally estimated, $2 million is part of that.
Okay, now we're talking about bringing emergency water hookup with Lake Michigan water, and we haven't made one repair to our infrastructure, knowing that 20% of our mains in our village have to be repaired. What are we looking at? We are going to have to pay for water coming in. Now, I think we talked about this last Tuesday night. Based on the infrastructure not being repaired, that means our water bill for the Lake Michigan water would be more than what we would receive from the village residents. Is that correct?
I believe that's correct, yes.
Okay, who's going to pay for that extra amount? The village residents. And how will that money, where will that money come from and how will we get it? I think what we need to remember too is, again, we are just on the agenda tonight to move forward to acquire the funding that the IEPA said that may be available under point number 5 of your letter. Okay? I think what it also does, it gives us another bargaining point when we deal with the IEPA on Tuesday. Now, to sit here and say, no, we're not going to go with the IEPA recommendation on point number 5 of the letter they provided us, it's going back and telling the IEPA you know what you're talking about. But what it shows the IEPA is we have multiple options. What we're doing is we're moving forward with getting the emergency water hookup. Okay? We don't know how we're going to do it yet because we don't have the $2 million plus. Okay? We also don't know, and there has been no plan, on how we're going to continue paying for Lake Michigan water when it's going to be higher than what we're receiving from the village residents. We just voted to raise it to $10.37? How much more are we going to have to raise it when all that water is seeping into the ground? We have to pay for it as it's coming into Sauk Village. That has not been figured out yet. But we do know, as of last year, 20% of the infrastructure had to be repaired. We don't know today, it could be 22%. Very easy. Because they're fixing water main breaks constantly. So I think what's happening is the residents are getting full information here. Again, we go back to long-term, short-term goals. The long-term goal is getting Lake Michigan water here. I don't think there's anyone on this board that's saying we're not going to Lake Michigan water. So what's affordable for the residents? And what can we do to move forward to get Lake Michigan water? And that's why with any type of plan you have, there has to be steps. We can't say we're going to bring emergency water hookup in here. We're going to use it as a permanent hookup, and it's going to cost the village residents more than what they're paying for their normal monthly bill. And that's what the people, I know some people may be getting it, but some people are not getting it because it's not coming out that way. If we're going to go forward on Lake Michigan water, there has to be steps. In anything, there's baby steps. One of the major baby steps is fixing our infrastructure. That's why we need to raise, and we voted to raise the rates tonight. The mayor's going to veto it, okay? He's going to veto it. But you know what? The infrastructure has to be repaired. We know we can't fix the infrastructure on $3.90 per 1,000 gallons that we're getting now. Or the infrastructure will be repaired. So we want to say, let's hold off, let's hold off. We've been holding off for the last 3.5 years. We've been holding off, we've been pushing back on the IEPA. You know what? We need to show the IEPA that we're serious about this. Go to this meeting next Tuesday night. Show the IEPA what the village board is willing to do, and let them know the mayor's not veto everything because he doesn't believe what they said. And I want to be part of that meeting, because I want to make sure they know.
All
But
right.
This bill
All
before
right.
needs to make some tough decisions. Tough decisions that's going to move forward because we are mandated by the village residents to move forward to get Lake Michigan water. And forget this holding off and let's wait. We've been waiting for the last 3.5 years and it's got us nowhere. So again, here we are 3.5 years later. Let's wait, let's do another study. But you know what? For someone who campaigned on this 3.5 years ago, I think the study would have been done and the plan would have been in place so they just put it down. There's no plan. It's just continue holding off and wait to see how much we get fined so we continue trying to break bankrupt this community.
One thing I would like to add is the $2 million, as the IEP stated in the letter, if village would like to apply for low interest loan funding for that, it seems like they're entertaining that. So let me know what the village's intention is on that so I can reply to them. Because at this point I've been directed that we're going to get local funding for that. But
Where?
Who's giving this information?
the village man.
Good. Where is it? We can't even afford to pay our bills. We got bills sitting on the back table. We're going to apply for a level loan.
Maybe something like that.
Probably a high interest loan, but it will be a low interest loan.
Well, we got a high interest loan for this building here. Trustee Williams.
I'm just gonna call again, see if we can get a vote. Mr. Zarek just stated that he needed to get vote direction. That's the purpose for this vote. And I understand your concern about the emergency hookup and how that 2 million is part of the 20 million that IEPA projected we're gonna spend. But in that letter, IEPA stated, we agree that you need the emergency hookup, but we think for your long term, like you named something, the thing tonight, short term, long term, they said, short term, you need the hookup. Long term, you should probably reevaluate, and you should look at the airstrip. So I think what you're asking for is a clarification on what direction we should go. Because I'm not sure what information, you said you received that information, we did not privately finance this. We don't have the money for it. So this vote, we can take a vote, then it'll be about whether or not we're going to ask you to proceed with attempting to get that funding.
Any other comments? Call the roll.
Benson.
Can't believe he's speechless.
Is it on?
He's gone. Or he's saying, I can't hear it.
To vote or yes or no.
Somebody else on his job.
Trustee said he had submitted his request to the mayor earlier tonight in writing.
Can't hear you.
He's got to put a vote, and the no vote, it shows as a no vote.
So is that,
Just put it out as a no vote.
not voting no,
Not no.
but no vote. Did not have. No vote. Okay. Burgess.
No.
Chavez.
Yes.